It's Monty here at the Canadian Indie Country Countdown, and we are talking with a guy from Ottawa, Ontario, who's no stranger to the Canadian Indie Country Countdown. That's Dan Petti. How are you, Dan?
Hey, Monty, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, my friend. Thank you very, very much. We've just been noticing a lot of people who've come out of the Ottawa Valley in the past, and you happen to be, of course, in that whole Ottawa Valley family. I guess do you look at the history of what happened country-wise in the Ottawa Valley?
Yeah, well, I do my best to. I actually was lucky enough last year to go to the Ottawa Valley Country Music Awards, which was just less than 5 minutes from my house. It wasn't in the valley; it was more in the city. So I was lucky enough to go to that, and I was just blown away. Honestly, it's such an underrated musical region in Canada. It even kind of has its own fiddle playing too, and so many characteristics to the style. So pretty fortunate to be in this area, and even just in terms of the country fairs that we have, they get some of the biggest Canadian acts. Like I'd be going to see Jason Blaine, Dean Brody, Gord Bamford, and basically be like a meter away from them, meet them after the show, and these are guys that are all over our major radio stations. So it's pretty cool to be in the Ottawa Valley for things like that, and just the network of songwriters and musicians that we have. So yeah.
Myself, I go back to Papa Joe Brown and Ronnie Prophet and Norval Prophet and a lot of people like that from the Ottawa Valley that I remember when I first started in radio. Now I'm dating myself, so but those were the guys that were the quote dominant country people. And now, as you say, with the newer artists and yourself included, the Ottawa Valley is becoming that central hub again, especially in Ontario, for country music.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting what's going on. I mean, I think it's kind of one of those Ottawa inferiority complexes, though, where we always look to Toronto and stuff, but a lot of people forget to look at their own. It's almost like the way Canada is to USA. I find Ottawa is to Toronto, and which is fine. Like this. It's a much smaller population, but I still feel it's very underrated, and we've tried to start a lot more kind of songwriter communities here and co-write with each other here and stuff like that. And it's slowly growing, and I mean, it was great when we had like the Country Music Awards of Ontario come to town in 2019, and it felt like the vibe was finally kind of back in the area. So maybe hopefully that will happen again too, but it's definitely great that there's a history there in Ottawa Valley, and now the fact that Ottawa has like two major country stations, and we get a lot of big acts coming through too, and lately some of like the big Canadian acts that have toured through have been taking like more indie openers. Like I know in the past year, like Elise Saunders and Cadence Grace and a few other people have been openers for some pretty big shows in Ottawa. So I love to see that, and I love to see that continue. So it's been a really good vibe lately in Ottawa when it comes to country.
That is awesome. That really is awesome. Now, when you take a look at your life, I mean, I know a couple of stations that play like 6 or 7 of your songs. When you were first starting out, who was the big person that you looked to for inspiration? Who was that motivator that got you going?
I would probably say, because I come from more of a rock background when I was playing in bands as a younger guy. But I always pretty much the artists that took me away from more of the rock side for a little while and just exposed me to like the guitar playing, but also the songwriting. That would be Brad Paisley for sure, without a doubt. And that's really who I got into. And it because he has pretty much both in his music. Like he's got the amazing guitar playing, but he still doesn't skip on his lyrics. Like the lyrics are all there, like amazing storytelling and all the hooks you need, and just like great meaningful stuff. So, and also some humor. He pretty much has everything. So yeah, that's pretty much what was really pulled me to the country side of things and the songwriting side of things for sure. And then from there, guys like Kenny Chesney, and then Canadians like Dean Brody, like those are pretty much also Eric Church as well. So those are kind of the guys that really got me hooked to songwriting and country songwriting, and then also like the first 2 or 3 albums of Miranda Lambert for sure were big for me. So yeah, that's pretty much what initially influenced me, and I kind of like the fact that in Canada we can kind of create our own sound too, because there's a lot of indie folk and acoustic folk in Canada that kind of creates our own sound. So I love when stuff like that kind of infiltrates into our country music as well. And lately, like a big influence of mine has been Donovan Woods, who kind of can toe the line and do a lot of commercial country stuff, but also release his own more folksy singer-songwriter type of stuff as well. So those are kind of the guys that I've been really into over the past many years.
Well, when it comes to songwriting, I mean, you're no slouch. I'm going to be honest with you. You write some of the most amazing songs going. You hit number 1 back in 2020 here on the Canadian Indie Country Countdown with a song called My Kind of Road. And it's just a phenomenal song. Where did that song come from?
Yeah, well, that song I wrote pretty much around the time 2018, 2019, right when I was starting to go to Nashville for the first time and really learn songwriting, like professional, like types of songwriting, and really start to push myself. And with that song, I didn't really feel at the time like I did anything really that great or special. It was more just like, it was just something about the lyric and the melody that really hooked the ear. And like, I started playing at open mics around the time when I was going to Nashville, and everyone was telling me that they'd just remember it. They'd see me the next day and they'd still have it in their head. And the lyrics were meaningful, but not like overly complicated or clever. It was just, a simple song about life and love, which is kind of what inspired me to be in country music in the first place too. So that song kind of is basically me as a songwriter and as an artist. So I think that kind of was evident when people listened to it too, and it just became me. So yeah, and the fact that it was also my first song also really helped with like everyone being kind of so supportive. And yeah, it was just kind of like the perfect storm of all these great things happening. And it was really early in COVID too, so it was kind of honestly a way for me to get out of the darkness of that time and just like focus everything on my music and everything on that song. So yeah, no, it's always been really special to me. It was also the first song that I produced with like a really good friend of mine, and there was literally nothing to do for months on end at that time, right? As it was for a lot of us. So we just like kind of kept on collaborating on that song and poked away at it every now and then. We would either meet up with a mask on, or we would, collab from afar and send tracks back and forth. And we finally got it done. And so the fact that that's the song that went to number 1, it just made it even that much more special.
I was going to say, to have your first song go to number 1, man, that is quite the accomplishment.
Yeah, well, I had an amazing support system too, and everyone. I think I hadn't released music in so long. Like I pretty much just like focused on other things in my life for like 7 or 8 years. So the fact that people were like, "Oh, Dan's releasing music again," like it was kind of like everyone just turned their eyeballs and their ears towards me, and yeah, it was such a humbling and overwhelming experience to have that many people like voting and resharing my stuff. Like I honestly couldn't believe it. So yeah, no, it's definitely very special.
And then you follow it up in 2022 with a couple of great songs. One of them hit number 7 on our charts, and that is After Work. Now, I love After Work. I think that is one of them. That is a great song.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that one, I will talk about my new one in a bit, but that one kind of connects to that in an interesting way, because both songs kind of mention about my first date with my now wife. And yeah, it's an interesting one because that's the first song that I wrote with another really good friend, songwriter friend of mine, Andrew Pardon. And we kind of just met up, and he had the idea to write a song called After Work, but we didn't know what we were going to do with it. And I just got home from a really, really tough day at work, and I thought, okay, well, I want to write this song with you because this is how I'm feeling right now. And it turned into a song about balancing life and work, in a successful way or an unsuccessful way, and how you can keep a relationship going and still focus on your career. And I thought, at the time we were in our late 20s. I'm not in my 20s anymore, but at the time we were in our 20s, and that's pretty much when people try to figure that out, right? How to have a career, but also keep a relationship going. So we thought that the song would resonate, but it was funny because we initially wrote it to pitch to another artist, and we just could never really get it right. We probably rewrote the song like over 10 times. And we just couldn't figure out how to write it to meet what another artist would want. And then I finally thought, you know what? I had already had my first two songs out at the time, and I said, why am I writing it for someone else when this speaks to me? And so I rewrote the first verse on my own, just thinking about a lot of my own experiences that were very personal. And that ended up being the version that we brought to my producer, and we finally got it out to the world. So yeah, it had quite the long journey towards that end, but it was worth it. And yeah, it's definitely one that people seem to really love singing along to the chorus with, and even the music video was kind of cool how it came about. And we just rented an office space, and we were there for hours just trying to get it right. And it was funny because we were filming that music video till like 3 a.m. on a work night. And I was like dead the next day, and I was kind of laughing because I was like, that's kind of what the song's about. Like just devoting yourself to your work, but at the same time, still trying to keep other parts of your life balanced. So yeah, that's how it all kind of came together. But yeah, definitely a meaningful song to me for sure.
During the pandemic, you weren't sitting back on your laurels. I mean, you were pitching songs, and you were emailing people and saying, "Hey, here's a new song," and asking people what they thought of it, and that. And you had a real, I'm going to say, music business going at the time, making sure that everybody knew you were still going.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess like we had a bit more of the time to do that, but I. Like the fame and money part of it isn't really like the biggest thing to me. Obviously, like, that's a long shot and that sort of thing. But I still believe that if you're going to do something, you should do it with your most effort and do it as well as you can. And so like, I'm not a big fan of like having these songs that I pour my heart into just like die on a shelf. So the second I decided that I was going to actually release them, I thought, well, I got to treat this like a business and do what I can with it. So I've worked with a lot of great people, like Hendrik Pape at Soundcheck Entertainment, and Tara Shannon, who's doing a lot of great stuff in Ottawa, and like many other people who've helped me and mentored me. And I have friends who help me with ads, and I have friends who help me with graphic designs. Like I just have like so many awesome people, photography, videography. Like I know someone, I obviously pay them for their time. Like I believe in business, but they're also friends, and they give their love back to me in their work. And so, yeah, it's been a great team that I've created. And yeah, it's just been really worthwhile to do this. So even though it does feel like work at times, and it feels like a business and that sort of thing, and it is, but I also love it, and it like energizes me. So yeah, have people like yourself to respond and say that they like the song. Like that's what it's all about. It means so much. So.
Well, we know Henrik, and we really love that guy. He does so much, and Shannon, of course, is such a driving force that we love her as well. And you're surrounding yourself with such great people. And when you say that, one song falls, kind of follows another song, you mentioned After Work is kind of connected to your brand new single. So how is that connected?
Yeah, so the brand new single, it's a cool story because I initially just had the idea about connecting like a first date to a future marriage, which is kind of how my own story and journey ended up. And I thought like the hook and idea for my title about Day One, which is the name of the song, kind of connected to that. And, saying that you were my one day, which I say in the song, like I knew you were going to be my one day from day one, and the fact that I could flip that. So I thought it would be a really cool idea for a song, but that's all it was at the time. But then I was actually in the process of planning my proposal to my girlfriend at the time. And so I was like, wow, like this song kind of encapsulates all that. And maybe this can be the song that I propose with and, put my own touch on this moment with. Like, why not do it with music, right? I'm a musician, so why not put music into my proposal? So when I finished writing the song, I realized, yeah, this could be it. So last year is when I proposed with it in a beautiful spot by Georgian Bay. It's an absolutely stunning night and the sunset and everything, and it was amazing. So once we did that, the song still had not been recorded. I hadn't done anything with it. I hadn't even played it live before. So only my fiance had then heard it. So then I thought, man, like we're planning our wedding now. Like maybe this is a song that I can do everything with. And so I ended up recording it before the wedding. So we used the song for our first dance. And so that's what we danced to. And it was really, really special. So I thought this month now, which is November, that was when I first met her exactly 9 years ago. So I thought I'll use it for the proposal. We danced to it at the first dance at our wedding, and now I can release it 9 years basically to the day of when we first met in that November. So yeah, the song is kind of connecting pretty much every single thing all together. And yeah, so it takes the first date idea that After Work song about, and then it just kind of turns it into an entire love story journey of 9 years.
That is the coolest thing I've ever heard. I got to admit that is the coolest thing I've ever heard. Wow. I am blown away by that. I really am. I think that is the most absolutely coolest thing I've ever heard. How you brought it all full circle. How you brought it all full circle. Man, that is cool. You know what, Dan? I'm just going to say, I'm going to let you introduce everybody here at the Canadian Indie Country Countdown to your brand new single. Would you do that for me?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks so much. I'd definitely do that. All right. So, hey everyone, my name is Dan Petti, and you're listening to my new song, Day One, on the Canadian Country Countdown and Coyote.